Vintage ABS fittings. Let's start with this ABS T fitting from the 60s or 70s. It has some sort of logo on it, but I'm not sure what company that logo is from. You can see how it says NSF DWV. DWV means Renison Vent, but NSF is not in all capital letters. Some companies changed the capital letters in the 70s, while others changed in the 1980s. Now this is a T fitting, so this would be the trap, this would be the vent, and then this would be the main drain. Every pipe that goes into this would be 1.5 inches. Now you can see how it says ABS, but it looks a bit sloppy. A lot of fittings back then were sloppy looking. And there are a few numbers that I'm not sure what those numbers are. The only other numbers on this fitting is 1.5 inches, which is the size. On the other side, there's a lot less information. There's no logo or those numbers. You see, that's the inside, so this is where the water would go down. And then the next fitting is also from the 60s or 70s, and it's an 1.5 inch 45-degree elbow. But it has somewhat of a mystery brand, and the reason why I say somewhat is because I've seen this mystery logo on other fittings, which looks like a D with a 4 inside of it. Now, I'd assume that these fittings are made by the same company because the way the numbers look on the hub. So these are probably made by the same company, so I'd assume it's some sort of logo or short for a longer name. Now you can see how it says NSF DWV in the older way. And it says UPC on this fitting. A lot of older fittings said UPC, and that means it's code approved, but fittings are still code approved and they no longer say that, so I'm not sure why they put it on them back then. And then there's a screw head, and that's actually the head from when they were putting the molds together. It would show up in the plastic. And on the other side, it has the part number right there, but all the other information from this side is on this side. So it's the inside, and it looks a little bit sloppy on this one also, but the outside looks clean. The next fitting is an ITT Grinnell ABS fitting. You can see that's their logo. And I bought this fitting because I was trying to figure out who made this fitting. You can see the hubs are the same. It says made in USA the same, and then UPC looks exactly the same. So I'd assume that this one's also made by ITT Grinnell, but it has a different logo than this ABS fitting. Now, since this is PVC, that could have something to do with it, but I'm not really sure. See, it says NSF the older way and UPC. On the other side, same amount of information, but there's no part number, so I'm not sure how you'd figure out what the part number of this fitting was. Now, this is a 2 by 1.5 by 1.5 Y, so you could glue this on a 2-inch wall stub out and connect 2 ABS P-straps. That was a common setup in the 70s. Next fitting is this 1970s U-brand ABS fitting. Now this is a Y, so you could connect a horizontal branch line with this. This would be the main ABS line. This would be the 1.5 inch going into it. Now it has its original 1970 Sears sticker on it. It says Sears, $1.19. Nowadays it'd be about $4 depending on what store you go to. That's the U-brand logo, NSF DWV. That's the part number, UPC. It says made in USA, and ITT Grinnell and U-brand were the only two companies that I know of that put made in USA on their fittings. That's just because you expected all the other brands to be made in USA, and they were, and most of them still are now. See on the other side, has a screw head, actually a few of them. This is probably just the way the mold is assembled. It probably required a lot more. And these are the hubs of the pipe would go into. The next fitting could be from the 60s or 70s. It's a Plasti-Line 1.25 inch ABS long sweep. So you could use this on bathroom sink drains, and it would be used on horizontal positions. And you can see how it has a Plasti-Line logo right there. It's code approved. It's the head of a screw. No markings on the screw. A lot of the screw heads had markings. It looks like a really long part number. I'm not sure if that's a real part number or not. NSF DWV says it on both sides, and that's the inside where the pipes would go into. Now, not many people use 1.25 inch anymore. I still use it for venting if I need to vent in tight spaces. Now, the next fitting is an 1.5 inch Amoco Chemicals ABS coupling. Now, this one's from the 70s, and I can tell because of the way it says NSF DWV. The NSF is in capital letters this time, so it has to be from the 70s. Amoco Chemicals Corporation, there's no logo. They just put that on the fittings. ABS, 1.5 inch. The other side, there's no information. It's just a pretty basic coupling. And then the last thing, you're going to think this is gross, but I'm really confused by this. It's an 1.5 inch Plastilline ABS elbow, probably from the 60s or 70s, and it's glued onto another ABS fitting with no marking. But what really confuses me, that obviously it's been used by the gunk in there, but these hubs haven't been glued. So these hubs haven't been glued, but it's been used. So I'm not really sure how it's able to be used without being glued in. Now this was glued, this connection, they can't get these apart, but these two weren't glued. So my only guess is that's iron Orca from a sump pump, and then this was an outdoor sump pump line that somebody could take apart for the winter. Now that might be too big of a guess. I might be using my imagination too much, but that's really all I can think of. Now my other guess is that this is a prefabricated fitting from Plastilline. It's dirty, but when I put this at the 45-degree elbow, it's not really a true 45-degree, or it's not straight coming out, which you'd think it becomes straight when I put this elbow on here. So I'm not really sure what this angle is and what fittings you have to use to get this angle, but it'll always be a mystery to me. I don't know if I'll ever know why this is like this.